Find the Highbush cranberry flower. Good afternoon and welcome to Willow's Green Permaculture. It's a very snowy day here in Sterling, Ontario, and this is the perfect time to pick Highbush cranberries, which that's Viburnum trilobum. Viburnum trilobum, actually. This is the European variety. Pretty sure anyway, because the berries are all still on the tree from last year. You see all these black ones here. They're all from the winter of 2023 into 2024. And then these red ones are from this past summer and they're just drying up now this winter. And because they're mostly still on the trees, that's what tells me that these mustn't be the native variety, because the birds are mostly leaving them alone because we have all those from last year still there. Even though otherwise, visually, it's very difficult to tell the difference between these two trees, the European variety of Viburnum triloba and the Canadian or North American variety. The other difference is raw. The North American variety tastes much sweeter than the European variety, but cooked into a jam, they're both just as delicious. This is really amazing cooked into jam. This is the perfect time to pick them because even the red ones here that are fresh from this past summer, they look like raisins. The black ones look totally like raisins or more like dried currants. And because of the repeated freeze-thaw cycle in the last month, they've released their sweetness. Now, I just tasted the two. The black ones from a year ago are really, really sweet. They're basically like dried raisins that have been hanging in this tree for over a year. Whereas the red ones still aren't as sweet as they could be because we're still early in the winter. It's only December. If I wanted to, I could wait and pick these in late January or early February. So I'm gonna pick a bunch of these, the red ones and the black ones. Pick enough to make a jam with. The Viburnums all have very flexible branches. I can pull out these branches and not worry about breaking them. Now, I don't have time to make this into jam today, but I'm just gonna freeze these. So it's gonna be like they're coming right back outside. You can see the snow sitting on top of them. First, I'm picking all the red ones, you've probably noticed, because I don't know how efficiently I'm gonna be able to rehydrate those black ones. But I tasted a couple and they were really sweet. Normally, I'd leave a bunch for the birds. Well, I probably will leave a bunch for the birds, but normally I might leave more for the birds, but they don't seem to eat these. Maybe they do. Maybe they just don't eat that many. You know, animals will eat. If they're hungry, they'll be willing to eat almost anything that could be food. I'll give you an example. When I first moved here, I noticed blue circles in the snow. What is that? What is wrong with my soil? I got these blue circles in the snow. I was afraid I had some kind of pollution in my soil. Where would blue circles come from? I thought, is there kind of like, what, petroleum in the soil? I took a picture, sent it out to my networks, and I learned something that day. It was rabbit pee. Rabbit pee? Rabbit pee? How can rabbit pee be blue? Well, rabbit pee isn't blue. But if a rabbit doesn't have enough food around, and when we first moved in that first year, I guess it didn't, because this was a real desert here, a desert of not much decent vegetation. No native vegetation, basically. We had to plant it all. And so that first winter, I saw those blue circles all over the place, which were an indicator that the rabbits were going hungry. And why does their pee go blue when they go hungry? Well, if there's buckthorn around, and that's what our forest was full of, practically nothing native, and a ton of Rhamnus cathartica, or non-native invasive buckthorn. And when the rabbits eat the fruit and maybe the branches of that buckthorn, well, there's something in there that gets into their pee. And when they pee, well, it looks normal. It's a normal color. But as soon as the pee is exposed to the sun, their pee turns blue. And so that was an indicator that there was not enough food for wildlife around here. Well, at least not for rabbits. And, well, it was clear because, I mean, all there was buckthorn here. and a few other things. This large trunk in the middle, well, the largest that you can see, is a poplar, and it's surrounded by these smaller saplings of buckthorn. The poplar is about 3 years old. It's quite tall. It's about 3 meters or 12 feet tall. But surrounding it here, we've got these buckthorn saplings, which are only a year old. And so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all going up to more than 3/4 this other tree's height in straggling. And so, well, we worked really hard in the first year to plant all sorts of native fruiting trees and native shrubs. And of course, that first year we had a lot of foragers in our garden, once again, because there wasn't enough native food for the native animals. And that blue pea was the indicator of that. But the thing is, since our second winter, so we had that, we moved in, it was December. We had our first winter, that winter when we hadn't done anything yet, except for start to clear the forest of all the buckthorn. But we saw all that pea, all that blue pea. And then in our first summer, obviously we hadn't planted it. First spring is when we started planting stuff. And so it hadn't grown yet. So in our first summer, we had lots of foragers in our gardens, but we planted a ton of stuff, a ton. We worked really hard. And since our second summer, we haven't had as much foraging, very little compared to that first year. That first year we had a ton. And so, you know, I've said it once and I'll repeat it again and again because it's the truth. If you work on planting native fruiting shrubs, native wildflowers, native trees, native plants in the space that you can, outside of your garden, as far as your garden as you can, but or it could be the border of your garden too, to act as a fence. If you plant that native stuff, that's what the animals will prefer to eat, you see. But if they don't have any of that stuff, rather than starve, they'll eat our human cultivated food, because at least it's something. Well, get a few more of these raisins, these Highbush Cranberry raisins. Experiment to see if I can rehydrate them. And I think that's enough for the day. I think I got enough for jam there. Maybe just a small jar of it or two. We'll see. So, let's give it a try here. Some of the younger ones from this past summer. Let's taste it. So you can see they're starting to look like raisins. Starting to be a little sweet. The flavor's hard to describe. There's the seed right there. Flat, round seed. It's a shrub. I've propagated this into the forest using stem cuttings. It really works. That's why I wasn't really worried about breaking some stems, because if I'd broken any, I would have just gone and propagated them. Highbush Cranberry, winter buds. Here are the end ones. Here's some more fruit. Gonna leave this alone. Leave it for the Cardinals. They like to eat Highbush Cranberry fruit. So this little tree, which is about 4.5 feet tall, about 1.40 meters tall, was a stem cutting 2 years ago in the fall. And it's done all of this in the last 2 years, 2 summers. So now I'm going to propagate this seed. Oh, maybe I'll propagate it right there. There we go. Maybe it'll grow next year. Actually, they're pretty good. But let me taste a bunch. I have no idea how to describe this. It's a little sour, a little sweet and sour. It's on the sour side of sweet and sour. Sweet and sour sauce. Well, it's on the sour side of sweet and sour, but it's still sweet. Say that 7 times. It's on the sour side of the sweet and sour, but still sweet. Say that 7 times. It's on the sour side of the sweet and sour, but it's still sweet. Say that 7 times. It's on the sour side of the sweet and sour, but it's still sweet. Say that 7 times. Anyway, okay. I'm just being silly. Let's plant some more. Okay. That was very good. Now let's try one of the black ones. Yeah, I want something that at least looks like it has some meat still on it. I think they're falling off, so there you go. Don't those look like currant raisins to you? Anyway, so let's try this. Let's try one of the thicker looking ones that might have some juice in there. What you have to do is peel the skin off, kind of, suck on the seed. That's where the flavor is. Tastes a bit like a currant raisin. Let's look at the seed. What color it is. Oh, it's not red anymore. Well, it's a year old, maybe more. So some of these might be more than a year old. Some of them might be 2 years old. There's a seed. It's lost all its color. But, I mean, that's still viable. It's just not fresh. They're good. Not much meat on them, though. Much more when they're fresh and red. Now, when you're making jam with this stuff, you have to warn your family because it kind of makes the whole kitchen smell like smelly socks when you're making the jam. Whether it's the European variety or the Canadian or North American variety. But the jam is really good. I've made it a few times and likely I'm going to be using this plus quince. So we'll see how it goes. Here's what I picked. Not a ton, but it ought to do. Make a little jam, you know, as an experiment to show you how it works. We have a few more of these trees. You know what, maybe I'll pick some more. These ones I can reach from the ground. Earlier, there was a ton of snow on top of all these. We just got several centimeters of snow this morning, but it's already started to melt. It's not that cold out. Now, there's a tree right here in the middle of the forest. There are no fruit left on it except for these. And I just tasted them. They're a lot sweeter than the other ones. So this must be the North American variety of Viburnum trilobum. Here's another little tree with, it's got a few more on them than the other one, but not that many. I'm gonna give them a try. Oh, they're all broken. Here they are, close up. Let's give them a try. I'm gonna taste these ones. These are little shrubs. These are sweeter. Yep, that's good. Planted another one, but on the sweet side of sweet and sour. Okay, let's plant another one. That's good. It's very refreshing. It just reminded me of something. There's a bit of a citrusy flavor, I guess you might say. Almost like lemon juice, but sweet too, like a sweet lemon juice. Lemonade. These taste like lemonade. I'll leave these for the birds because they're the best tasting ones. But these are gonna make great jam anyway. And these guys were right beside our turtle pond. We have a turtle that stays the winter here, right about right there. Easy to find them in the snow. So let's fill these jars with the Highbush cranberry. I've cut off pretty well all the large stems. The little ones I'll just leave because when I take these out of the freezer to make the jam, all those little pieces are going to come off those little stems really easily. Don't mind crushing these because I'm going to need to use water to cook these anyway, so I'm going to rinse these jars thoroughly, get every last bit of juice out of here. The dry ones I'm not putting in there. I don't want to mix the dry with the fresh. I don't need to be frozen, they're dry. So we got about 2 liters here, all nice and crushed into there. I'm gonna freeze these for now. Here are the dry ones, which I'll put in a separate jar. And these will be for another video. Viburnum lentigo, nannyberry, a whole bunch here. Well, this was a short, sweet video on the Highbush cranberry. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful and you learned something from it. If you liked it, then please share it with your friends. Give it the thumbs up. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe to our channel. Support us with what we're doing here just by subscribing. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. There's some more Highbush cranberry over there. I'm barefoot, so I'm not gonna walk into there. And then there's a little bit right here. And there's some over here. Oh, and I almost forgot right behind that. There's sycamore here. There's another one. It's our second sycamore. Oh, and here's another one. This is our Highbush cranberry corner. About 6 Highbush cranberries that are surrounding this little sycamore here. This sycamore I had to transplant because when I planted it too close to the willow out back. They weren't going to have enough space for each other. So I gave the sycamore its own little space.